Hello brothers and sisters, welcome to my channel Yarn with Abarna. In this video tutorial, I am going to show you how can we knit this easy and fast baby cardigan. So this is very easy to make. I made this for 2 to 3 year baby girl. You can make this from newborn baby also. You can see this is the front side of this sweater and this is the back side of this sweater. For this I am going to use the leaf pattern. You can see this is the leaf pattern. Totally I have 14 leaves. So that 14 leaves join one to another. So it looks like a flower. So according to your baby size, you are going to choose the yarn and also the needle. You can see if you are going to make newborn baby to 6 months means you are going to choose 4 play. The yarn is common for all size, but the needle size is 3 mm knitting needle. If you are going to make 6 to 12 month baby means you are going to choose 3.25 mm knitting needle. 1 to 2 year baby means you are going to choose 3.5 mm knitting needle. If you are going to make 2 to 3 years means you are going to choose 3.75 mm knitting needle. According to your baby size, you are going to choose the needle size. Okay, let's start our project. Before going to this video tutorial, if you visit my channel first time means don't forget to subscribe my channel because I need your support. Okay. For this project, I am going to use 3.75 mm knitting needle. I am going to use 2 strands of 2 play on. You are going to choose the knitting needle and also the thickness of yarn according to your baby size. Now I am going to cast on 84. So I am going to use long tail cast on method for this. So I leave little amount of yarn. After that I am going to make a slip knot. You can see. Now I am going to insert the needle into this and now I am going to make cast on 84. This is counted as my first cast on. I am going to continue 84 cast on. You can see totally I make 84 cast on. Now we are start our work. For the smooth edges, I simply slip the first loop in knitwise and also make the purl stitch in the last loop. This is the basic of all rows. So I simply slip the first loop in knitwise. I simply make a purl stitch for the last loop. So totally I have 84 cast on. Now you can see this is the first loop of this row. You can see I simply slip in knitwise into the first loop. So this is my second loop. Into this I am going to make one knit stitch. Move to the third. Into this I am going to make one knit stitch. Continue the same. In every loop you simply make one knit stitch. You can see this is the last loop of this row. For the smooth edges I simply make a purl stitch into the last. You can see I simply make a purl stitch into the last. Row 1 is completed. I am going to turn my project. This is my row 2. So I am going to continue the same for 4 rows. I simply slip the first loop in knitwise. I am going to make a purl stitch into the last loop. In remaining I have 82 loops. Into that I simply make one knit stitch. I am going to continue the same pattern for 4 rows. After finishing my 4th row, I will show you what are the next steps for this project. You can see totally I make 4 rows of knit stitch. You can see totally I have 84 loops. This 7 loops for the button part and also these 7 loops for the button part. Only for that reason I place the markers. You can see if you are working this button part means you simply make a knit stitch in these 7 loops and also these 7 loops. So please remind this. So you can see now I am going to make a buttonhole in this side. This is the first loop of this row. I simply slip the first loop in knitwise. This is my second loop, make one knit stitch. This is my third loop, make one knit stitch. You can see now I knit 3 stitches. You can see now I am going to yarn over like this way. You can see I am going to yarn over like this. After that you are going to make 2 knit together. You can see like this. This is the first loop. This is the second loop. I am going to make together like this way. So the total number of the loop is same. So now totally I have 5 loops on my hook. After that, this is my 6th one, this is my 7th one. You can see now you get the hole in this place. Okay, so I replace the marker. Remaining, I simply make one knit stitch in every loop. You can see like this way, you simply make one knit stitch in every loop. If you are going to make a buttonhole, means you simply knit 3 loops in the first. After that, you are going to make yarn over. After that, you are going to knit 2 together. Okay, after that I simply make one knit stitch in every loop for this row. To finish this, make a purl stitch into the last. To start my 5th row means I simply slip the knitwise in the first loop. Remaining, I simply make one knit stitch in every loop. To the last, I simply make a purl stitch. After finishing this 5th and 6th row, I will show you what are the next steps for this project. You can see row 6 is completed. You can see this is the buttonhole. So now I am going to enter my row 7. Into this also, from this row we are going to enter the design. You can see this 7 for the button part and also this 7 for the button part. Remaining, I have 70 loops. Into that 70 loops, I am going to make a design. Okay, you can see this is the first 7 for the button part. So this is the first loop of this row. I simply slip the first loop in knitwise. This is my second loop, one knit stitch, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, seventh one. After making 7 knit stitch, you can see after making 7 knit stitch for the button part, this is the first loop and this is the second loop. I am going to knit together using these 2 loops. Like this way I am going to knit together. After that I am going to yarn over once, one knit stitch like this way. Now I am going to use 3 loops. You can see after that you are going to change the yarn direction in this loop. You can see I am going to change the yarn direction like this way. After that I am going to yarn over once and knit together like this. Now totally I am going to use 5 loops. So now I am going to continue these 5 loop step for this row. I simply knit together, yarn over, one knit stitch, yarn over, change the yarn direction and knit together. So I am going to show you once again. You can see knit together, then yarn over, one knit stitch, change the yarn direction of this loop, yarn over, knit together. So I am going to continue this 5 loop step, repeat and repeat for this row. Totally I have 70 loops. So I am going to continue the same pattern for 14 times. You can see this is the 2 loops. Into this I am going to knit together. You can see knit together, then yarn over once, one knit stitch, change the yarn direction of the next loop, then yarn over, knit together. So you are going to continue the same thing for this row. You can see I simply continue the same pattern for 13 times. This is my 14th one. So you can see knit 2 together. After that yarn over once, one knit stitch, change the yarn direction, yarn over, 2 loops together. Okay. Now I reach the marking place. I simply replace the marker. I have 7 loops. This is for the button part. If you are reaching this 7 loops, you simply make one knit stitch in every loop. Like this way, you simply make one knit stitch. This is my last loop. Into this, I simply make one purl stitch. You can see this is the right side of your project. How can we identify which is right side and which is wrong side means? You can see this is the tail end. this tail end is in my right hand side. So this is my right side. If you turn your project means this tail end is in your left hand side. So this is your wrong side of your project. Row 7 is completed. Now I am going to enter in my row 8. For this row 8, you can see into this 7 loops I simply make knit stitch. Into this 7 loops I simply make knit stitch. Remaining I have 70 loops. Into that I am going to make 1 purl stitch in every loop. After that I am going to enter my 9th row means I am going to knit all stitches. In every one I simply make 1 knit stitch. If you are going to work in your 10th row means you simply continue like same way. Into this 7 make knit stitch, into this 7 make knit stitch, remaining you have 70, into that you are going to make purl stitch. After finishing these 3 rows, row 8, row 9, row 10. After finishing these 3 rows, I'll show you what are the next step for this project. You can see I finished that 3 rows. For that 3 rows, I am going to continue this pattern. In my 8th row, row 8, I am going to knit 7 for the button part, 17 stitches for the purl, 7 for the button part. In my 9th row, I knit all stitches, all loops. In my 10th row, 7 knit for button part, 70 for purl and 7 knit for button part. After finishing these rows, now I am going to enter my row 11. You can see, now we are going to work in my row 11. So, in this row 11, as usual, I am going to make 7 knit stitch for the button part. You can see, this is the first loop. Into this, I simply slip in knitwise in the first loop. Into the second loop, make 1 knit stitch, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth, and also this is the 7th one. After making 7 knit stitch, I reach the marker. I simply remove this marker into my another needle. Now we are going to enter the design. For this, I am going to make 2 knit stitch in next 2 loops. You can see 1 and then 2. After making 2 knit stitch, yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, yarn over, then 4 knit stitch, 1, 2, 3, then 4. Now we are going to repeat the pattern. Yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, then yarn over once, 4 knit stitch, 1, 2, 3 and then 4. Now we are going to continue this pattern. Yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, yarn over once, 4 knit stitch. Continue this pattern for this round. You can see, yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, then yarn over once, 4 knit stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see, now you are in the line. You can see, in this line we are going to work yarn over once, 1 knit stitch. You can see, yarn over once, 1 knit stitch. Now we are in this line. Okay. After this, yarn over once, 4 knit stitch. 1, 2, 3, then 4. Now we are reaching the next line. You can see this is the line. If you are reaching the line means yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, then yarn over once, 4 knit stitch. 1, 2, 3 and then 4. Continue the same. Now we are reach the next line. If you are reaching the line means yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, then yarn over once, 4 knit stitch. You are going to continue this pattern for this row. You can see I nearly finished this row. You can see this is the last 3 for the design. So now I am in this line. So yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, then yarn over once. Remaining you have 2 loops because from starting we are start with 2 knit stitch and also end with 2 knit stitch for this row. So yarn over once, 2 knit stitch. Okay. After that you are reaching this marker. You simply replace the marker. Now remaining you have 7 loops. Into that you are simply make 1 knit stitch for the button part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the last loop. So into this I am going to make 1 purl stitch. So in this stage totally you have 112 stitches, 12 loops in your needle. Now we are going to enter my row 12. So into your row 12 you simply continue this pattern. Total number of stitches is 112. So 7 knit stitch for the button part. 7 knit stitch for the button part. So 7 knit for the last. This is also used for the button part. So I am going to use 7 for this and also use this 7 for this. So total number of stitches used for button part is 14. So remaining I have 98. So into that 98 loops you simply make 1 purl stitch. Okay, you are going to continue like this way. So in your row 12 you simply 7 knit stitch for the button part. After that you are going to make 98 purl stitch in next 98 loops. So remaining you have 7. Into that you simply make 7 knit stitch for the last. After that you are going to enter in your row 13. Into your row 13 you simply knit all stitches. So knit all stitches. Totally you have 112 stitches. Into that you simply make 1 knit stitch in every loop. So after finishing this you are going to enter your row 14. If your row 14 means like this, like your row 12. So row 12. So 7 knit stitch, 98 purl stitch, 7 knit stitch. So after finishing these 3 rows, I'll show you what are the next step for this project. This is very easy to make. Now I am going to enter my row 12. If your row 12 means 7 knit, 98 purl stitch, 7 knit stitch. In your row 13, you simply make 1 knit stitch in every loop. If you are going to work in your row 14, like row 12, 7 knit stitch, 98 purl stitch, 7 knit stitch. After finishing these 3, I'll show you what are the next step for this project. Now I finished 14 rows. I am going to enter my row 15. So into this you can see I am going to make 7 knit stitch for the button part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. After that I replace the marker. So after making the button part I am going to make 3 knit stitch. 1, 2 and then 3. So now I reach the line. You can see this is the line. Now I reach this line. From this I am going to continue the pattern. The pattern for this, yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, then yarn over 6 knit stitch for the next 6 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then 6. After that you are reaching the next line. You can see this is the next line. So continue the same. Yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, yarn over once, 6 knit stitch, yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, yarn over once, 6 knit stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then 6. Continue the same. You are reaching the next line. In this yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, yarn over once, 6 knit stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then 6. Then you reach the next line. From this continue the same. Yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, yarn over once, 6 knit stitch. Continue this pattern for this row. You can see I nearly finished this row. This is the last 4 loops you can see. So this is the line. So into this I am going to make yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, then yarn over once, remaining you have 3 loops. Into that you simply make 1 knit stitch. 1 2 3. After that you reaching this marker, you simply replace this marker into your another needle. Remaining you have 7 loops for the button part. Into that I simply make 1 knit stitch. So for the last loop I simply make 1 purl stitch. Now row 15 is completed. I am going to enter my row 16. You can see for row 16 you are going to continue this pattern. Totally you have 140 loops in this. So 7 for the button part. So you are simply make knit stitch for the 7. After that you are going to make 126 purl stitch. After that you are going to make 7 knit stitch for the another button part. After finishing this row 16 you are going to enter your row 17. Into that you simply make 1 knit stitch in all. So after that you are going to enter in your row 18. Into that continue the same 7 knit stitch, 126 purl stitch, 7 knit stitch. Okay. After finishing these 3 rows 16, 17, 18, I'll show you what are the next step for this project. Row 18 is completed. This is my row 19. For this row 19, I make 7 knit stitch for the button part. After that, I replace the marker. So now I am going to make 4 knit stitch. You can see 1, 2, 3 and then 4. So after making 4 knit stitch, I reach this line. You can see. So from this I am going to continue the pattern. Yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, yarn over once, then 8 knit stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So after finishing this, you are reaching the next line. You can see. So from this continue the same pattern. Yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, yarn over once, 8 knit stitch. You can see yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, yarn over once, 8 knit stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and then 8. After that you are reaching the next line. So you are going to continue this pattern for this line. Yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, yarn over once, 8 knit stitch. Continue this pattern for this row. You can see I continue the same pattern. This is the last 4 loops. You can see this is that line. Into this yarn over once, 1 knit stitch, then yarn over once. Remaining you have 4 loops. So into that you simply make 1 knit stitch. 1, 2, 3 and then 4. Replace the marker. So please understand this. So I am start with 4 knit stitch and also end with 4 knit stitch. Okay. Remaining you have 7 loops. Into that you simply make 1 knit stitch in every loop. After that you are going to enter your row 20. So into that you can see you are going to continue this pattern. In your row 20, totally you have 168 loops. So first 7 for the button part. So you are going to make 1 knit stitch in that 7 loops. So 7 knit stitch for the button part, 154 purl stitch and make 7 knit stitch for the another button part. After finishing row 20, move to your row 21. Into that you simply make 1 knit stitch in all. So after you are reaching 22 row means you simply continue the same. 7 knit stitch for the button part, 154 purl stitch, 7 knit stitch for the button part. After finishing these 3 rows, I'll show you what are the next step for this project. Now I finish 22 rows. You can see. After finishing the 22 row, now I am going to enter my row 23. So for this dress, for this cardigan, I am going to choose the leaf design. You can see like this, like this. Now we are going to make from this to this also. So now we are going to make like this. So now we are here. Now we are going to make this. Only for that reason I am going to change the pattern. So you can see in my row 23 I make 7 knit stitch for the button part. After that you can see, so after making this 7 knit stitch, yarn over once. You can see this is the next loop. I am going to change the yarn direction of this loop like this. Next, yarn over once, then knit together for the next 2 loops. You can see this is the 1 and this is the 2. Knit together for these 2 loops. So after that I am going to make 7 knit stitch for the next 7 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and then 7. After making 7 knit stitch, I am going to use these 2 loops, knit together like this way. After that, now I am going to make a loop like an increase. You can see like this. You can see like this. Now the pattern for this, after making this, make another loop into the same like this. Now into the next loop you are going to change the yarn direction. After that yarn over once, knit 2 loops together. You can see 1 and then 2. Knit 2 loops together. You can see like this. After that knit 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and then 7. After that you are going to make 2 loops together and make a loop. This is the repeat pattern. So this is very easy to make. You can see this is the repeat pattern. So you can see I am going to once again. So make a loop. For that you are going to make a loop like this way. Like this. After making the loop, change the yarn direction. Only for that I am going to write like CYD. So change the yarn direction of the next loop like this way. Then knit 2 together like this. After that you are going to use next 7 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and then 7. After that knit together. You can see I am going to use these 2 loops for together. After that you are going to make a loop. So this is the repeat pattern. So going to continue the same. After that make a loop. Change the yarn direction for the next loop. Knit together 7 knit stitch. Knit together, make a loop. You are going to continue this pattern for this 23rd row. Now you can see I make 7 knit stitch. You can see now I make 7 knit stitch. After that I am going to make knit together. So into these 2 I am going to make knit together. So for this pattern, after making knit together we are going to make a loop. Only for that reason I am going to make a loop. So after making this you will reach the next marking place. So I simply replace the marker in your right hand needle. Remaining you have 7 loops. Into that you simply make 1 knit stitch in every loop. To the last I simply make purl stitch for the smooth edges. You can see like this way. Now I am going to enter my row 24. For this I simply make 7 knit stitch for the button part. You can see now I make 7 knit stitch for the button part. After that, this is the first loop for this design. Into this I am going to make 1 knit stitch. You can see this is the loop. So into that I am going to make a knit stitch using the back loop. So after that you are going to make 9 purl stitch like this way. 1, 2, 3. Now I make 1 knit stitch. After that I make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 purl stitch. The pattern for this row means make 9 purl, 2 knit stitch. 9 purl, 2 knit stitch. You can see. So after making 9 purl, I am going to make 2 knit stitch like this. Move to the next. Into this I am going to make 9 purl stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then you are going to make 2 knit stitch into the next 2 loops. You can see. Sorry. So into this I am going to make my first knit stitch. This is my second knit stitch. So move to the next. 9 purl stitch, 2 knit stitch. 9 purl stitch, 2 knit stitch. 9 purl stitch, 2 knit stitch. Continue this pattern. I simply make 9 purl stitch. This is the last loop. Into this I make 1 knit stitch into the back loop. So after reaching the marker, replace the marker. Now remaining you have 7 loops. Using this for the button part, I simply make 1 knit stitch in every loop. To the last I simply make 1 purl stitch. Now row 24 is completed. I am going to enter my row 25th. So for that I simply make 7 knit stitch for the first 7 loops. You can see in my row 25 I make 7 knit stitch for the button part. After making 7 knit stitch, you can see 1 knit stitch for the next loop. You can see this is the next loop. Into this I simply make 1 knit stitch. Now the pattern for this row is, you can see this is the pattern for this row. Yarn over once, change the yarn direction, knit 2 together, then 5 knit stitch, knit 2 together, yarn over, then 2 knit stitch. This is the pattern for this row. We are going to repeat this for this row. You can see. So after making this 1 knit stitch, now I am going to continue the pattern. So I simply yarn over once. Before that I am going to change the yarn direction. So I am going to change the yarn direction. So yarn over once, then knit 2 together. You can see like this. After that you have 5 knit stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and then 5. After making 5 knit stitch, knit 2 together. So this is the first loop and this is the second loop. I am going to knit 2 together. So after that you have yarn over once, then make 2 knit stitch. So yarn over once, make 2 knit stitch. 1 and then 2. Now we are going to continue this pattern, repeat and repeat for this row. Yarn over once. Before that I am going to change the yarn direction, you can see. Then yarn over once, knit 2 together like this. Then 5 knit stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4 and then 5. After that knit together. This is the first loop and this is the second loop. Knit 2 together. Then yarn over once. Then make 2 knit stitch. Continue this pattern, repeat and repeat for this row. You can see I nearly done this row. So now I make 5 knit stitch. You can see after making that 2 knit together, you can see this is yarn over 2 knit together. After that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I make 5 knit stitch. After that I am going to make knit 2 together. So you can see knit 2 together, then yarn over once, going to make 2 knit stitch, but I have remaining only 1 loop. Into that I simply make 1 knit stitch. After that replace the marker. Remaining you have 7 loops on your hook. You simply make 7 knit stitch for this. Now I am in row 26. I simply make 7 knit stitch for the button part. After making this I am going to make 2 knit stitch. You can see 1 and then 2. You can see this is the yarn over of my previous row. So I am going to make a knit stitch of the back loop. If you are going to make a knit stitch in the front loop, means you get the space. You get like a hole. Only for that reason I am going to make a knit stitch into the back loop. After making this, now we are going to enter the pattern. The pattern for this row is make 7 purl stitch and make 4 knit stitch. Continue the same. 7 purl, 4 knit. 7 purl, 4 knit. Continue this pattern for this row. You can see like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and then 7. After making 7 knit stitch, you can see now you are reaching this yarn over. So into this I am going to make a 4 knit stitch. 1, 2, 3 and then 4. Continue the same. 7 purl stitch, 4 knit stitch. 7 purl stitch, 4 knit stitch. Continue this pattern for this row. You can see I make 7 purl stitch. Remaining I have 2 loops. Into these 2 loops I simply make 2 knit stitch. 1 and then 2. After that you are going to change the marker. Remaining you have 7 loops. Into that you simply make knit stitch. So in every 20 row, after finishing the 20 row, you are going to make a buttonhole according to your wish. This is my row 27. I make 7 knit stitch for the button part. After that I am going to make 2 knit stitch. You can see 1, 2. Now we are going to enter the pattern. For row 27 you are going to follow this pattern. Yarn over, chain the yarn direction, knit together 3 knit stitch, knit together, yarn over 4 knit stitch. Compared to your previous row, you can see we are going to make 5 knit stitch in here. So we simply decrease 2. So we are going to make 2 knit stitch in this place. Now we are going to increase 2. So this is the pattern. Now after making 2 knit stitch, you can see yarn over once, then change the yarn direction, knit together. You can see knit together. After that make 3 knit stitch. So 1, 2, 3. Then yarn knit together. So this is my first knit stitch, this is my second. So I am going to make knit together, then yarn over once, make 4 knit stitch. 1, 2, 3, then 4. You are going to continue the same. Yarn over, change yarn direction, knit together, 3 knit stitch, knit together, yarn over, 4 knit stitch. You are going to continue this pattern for this row. You can see I nearly finished this row. Now I make 3 knit stitch. After that I am going to make knit 2 together. So you can see I am going to make knit 2 together like this way. After that yarn over once. I am going to make 4 knit stitch, but remaining I have 2 because I am going to start with 2 knit stitch and also end with 2 knit stitch. So yarn over once and make 2 knit stitch. 1 and then 2. Replace the marker. You simply make 7 knit stitch for the button part. So after that you are going to enter your row 28. In that you simply make 7 knit stitch for the button part. In my row 28, I make 7 knit stitch for the button part. After that, you can see I am going to make 3 knit stitch. 1, 2 and then 3. So now we are going to enter the pattern. You simply make 5 purl stitch, 6 knit stitch. 5 purl stitch, 6 knit stitch. Continue this pattern. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 and then 5. 5 knit stitch, 5 purl stitch, 6 knit stitch, 5 purl stitch, 6 knit stitch. Continue this pattern for, you can see I continue the same pattern. 5 purl, 6 knit stitch, 5 purl, 6 knit, 5 purl, 6 knit. Now I make 5 purl stitch. So after that I have 3 loops in my needle. So because I am starting with 3 knit stitch, so I am going to end with 3 knit stitch. So if you are going to make a knit stitch in yarn over of your previous row means, you are going to make a knit stitch in the back loop of the stitch. You can see this is the back loop like this. So this is my first one, this is the second one and then this is the third one. Change the marker. Remaining you have 7 loops on your hook. Into that you simply make 1 knit stitch in every loop. In my row 29, I make 7 knit stitch for the button part. After that, you are going to make 3 knit stitch. 1, 2 and then 3. 3 knit stitch. Now we are going to enter the pattern. For this row, I am going to repeat this pattern. Yarn over once, change the yarn direction, knit together, 1 knit stitch, knit together, yarn over 6 knit stitch. I am going to continue this pattern. You can see first I have 5 knit stitch. In the next I simply decrease 2. So in the next I simply decrease 2 from this. So 5, 3, 1. So after that you are going to consider in this. So first I have 2 knit stitch. After that I am going to increase 2. So I have 4. In this I have 6. So this is very easy pattern. Now you can see yarn over once, change the yarn direction. So knit together like this way. After that make 1 knit stitch like this. After that knit together 1 and then 2, knit together. So after that yarn over 1, 6 knit stitch. Yarn over once, 6 knit stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then 6. So you can see now I am in this line. So continue the same. Yarn over once, change the yarn direction, knit together, 1 knit stitch, knit together, yarn over 1, 6 knit stitch. I am going to continue this pattern for this row. You can see I am going to continue the same pattern, repeat and repeat. Now I am here, knit together. After that you can see yarn over once, remaining you have 3 loops on your needle. You simply make 1 knit stitch in every that. So after that replace the marker, make 7 knit stitch for the buttonhole. So you can see now this is my row 30. I simply make 7 knit stitch for the button part. In my row 30 I am going to make 3 knit stitch. You can see 1, 2, 3. Then this is my fourth one. So totally you make 4 knit stitch in this. After that you are going to make 3 purl stitch. 1, 2, 3. Now we are going to enter the pattern. 8 knit stitch, 3 purl stitch. 8 knit stitch, 3 purl stitch. You are going to do like this. You can see from starting I simply make 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 knit stitch. You don't count this. Now we are going to enter the pattern. 3 purl, 8 knit. 3 purl, 8 knit. 3 purl stitch, 8 knit stitch. You are going to continue this pattern for this row. You can see I continue the same pattern, repeat and repeat. 3 purl stitch, 8 knit stitch, 3 purl stitch, 8 knit stitch. I continue the same pattern. Now I finish with 3 purl stitch. Remaining I have 4. So into this I am going to make knit stitch into this. You can see 1, 2, 3 and then 4, because I am going to start with 4 knit stitch. Only for that reason I am in with 4 knit stitch. So replace the marker. Remaining you have 7 loops on your hook. You simply make 1 knit stitch for the button part. Now I finish my row 30. Now I in row 31. So in this row 31 I am going to make 7 knit stitch for the button part. After making the 7 knit stitch, now I am going to make 4 knit stitch. So because I am going to end with 4 knit stitch, you can see in the design I am going to end with 4 knit stitch. So I am going to start with 4 knit stitch in here. So 1, 2, 3 and then 4. Now we are going to enter the pattern. What is the pattern for the row 31? You can see yarn over once. You can see. So I am going to yarn over once. Then knitwise you are going to make 2 slip. So now I am going to slip 2 stitches in knitwise. This is the basic. So you can see this is the 1 and this is the 2. So I am going to slip in knitwise like this. After that I am going to make 1 knit stitch like this way. Now I am going to in front of this 2 knit stitch. You can see this is that 2 knit stitch. I am going to in front like this way. You can see like this. So then make yarn over once, then make 8 knit stitch. 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and then 8. Continue the same pattern. You can see yarn over once. You are going to slip 2 stitches in knitwise. 1 and then 2. I am going to slip in knitwise these 2 like this way. After that you are going to make 1 knit stitch. Now I simply like this way. So like this. Okay. After that you are going to make yarn over once 8 knit stitch. You are going to continue the same, repeat and repeat. I nearly finished this row. So remaining I have 4 loops. Into this I simply make 1 knit stitch in every loop. 1, 2, 3 and then 4. Replace the marker. Into this 7 loops I simply make 1 knit stitch. After that you are going to start with in your row 32. This is my row 32. So I simply make 7 knit stitch for the button part. After that I am going to make 5 knit stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4 and then 5. Then make 1 purl stitch like this way. The pattern for this row is make 1 purl stitch, 10 knit stitch, 1 purl stitch, 10 knit stitch. Continue the same, repeat and repeat for this row. At the end of this remaining you have 5 loops. Into that you simply make 5 knit stitch, because I am going to start with 5 knit stitch in this row. So that is end with 5 knit stitch. So after finishing this you are going to make a button part. Into that you simply make 1 knit stitch for 7 times. After finishing this row 32, I will show you what are the next steps for this project. Now row 32 is completed. In this stage totally I have 168 loops. Initially I made 84 loops, but now in this stage after finishing 32 rows, now I have 168 loops. You can see. After row 20 I simply continue the same. I simply maintain this 168 loops. Okay. Now totally I have 168 loops. I simply make an increase in my 11th, 15th and also the 19th row. You can see I simply make an increase in my 11th row, 15th row and also the 19th row. In this row I simply make a increase. In every row I simply make 28 loops increased. So in this row I am going to increase 28 loops. In this row I am going to make 28 loops increased. In this row I am going to increase 28 loops. So totally I have 84. So initially I make 84. After that I increased 84. So totally I have 168 loops in this stage. Okay. Now I am going to divide it for 4 parts. So for the front part I am going to separate 28 loops. For the sleeve I am going to separate 31. For the back part I am going to use 46. For the another sleeve I am going to use 31 loops. For the another front part I am going to use 28 loops. Okay. So I am going to separate like this way. Now I am going to apply this in my project. So please remind this. You can see this is my row 33. In this row I am going to make 28 knit stitch, including this 7 button part. I have 28 knit stitch. After this button part I make 21 knit stitch. So after making 28 knit stitch for the front part, now I am going to make an increase using the loop. You can see now I am going to make a loop. This is for the increase. So after that I am going to make one knit stitch like this way. After making one knit stitch, now I am going to place the marker into this knit stitch. So after making this knit stitch, I am going to make one more increase. So before this I have increased and after this I have increased. So after making this, now I am going to move the next sleeve. For this sleeve I have 31. So I am going to make 31 knit stitch. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Continue the same for 31 knit stitch. You can see now I make 31 knit stitch. After making the 31 knit stitch, I am going to make an increase. After making the increase, I am going to make one knit stitch. After that, I am going to make one more increase. So, into this one knit stitch, I am going to place the marker. Continue the same. Now, you are going to continue the same. After that, for the back, you are going to make 46 knit stitch. After making 46 knit stitch, make a increase, 1 knit stitch, make a increase. After that, you are going to make 31 knit stitch. After finishing that, make a 1 increase, 1 knit stitch, 1 increase. So after that, you are going to remaining 28 loops. Into that, you simply make 28 knit stitch. So after finishing this 33 row, you are going to enter in your row 34. Into that, you simply make 1 knit stitch in every loop. After finishing row 33 and 34, I'll show you what are the next steps for this project. Now row 34 is completed. I am going to start my row 35. In my row 34, I simply make 1 knit stitch in every loop. Now I am going to start row 35. For this now I am going to make some knit stitch until I reach the first marking place. You can see this is the marker, but this is only indicate the button part. So after that I am going to make some knit stitch until I reach the marker. You can see simply replace the first loop. This is my second knit stitch, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth, 7, and then 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Now I make 29 knit stitch. After finishing my 29 knit stitch, I reach the marker. If you're reaching the marker, you simply make a loop before this marker like this way. This is an increase. I simply make a increase before this marker. After that, you are going to make one knit stitch into this. After that, you are going to make one increase. So continue the same. Now I am going to make some knit stitch until you reach next marking place. If you are reaching before the marker, make a increase. After making that increase, make one knit stitch. After that knit stitch, you are going to make one more increase. Continue the same, you can see. So now I am going to make some knit stitch until I reach the next marking place. I nearly reach the marking place. Before reaching this, you simply make one increase. So after making the increase, make one knit stitch. You can see. After making this increase, after making this knit stitch, make one more increase. Continue the same. Now I am going to make some knit stitch until I reach the next marking place. Before this, I make an increase. Into this marking place, I make a knit stitch. After making this knit stitch, you are going to make an increase. After that, you simply make one knit stitch in every loop. Before reaching this, you simply make an increase. After that, you are going to make a knit stitch into this marking loop. After that, you are going to make an increase. So, you are going to continue the same. If you are going to continue this row 35 is completed, you are move to row 36. You simply make one knit stitch in every loop. After that, you are going to start row 37. Continue the same what we did in this stage. If you are reaching this marking place, before that you are going to make an increase. Into this marking place, you are make a knit stitch. After this marking place, you are going to make an increase. So continue the same, repeat and repeat. Now I finish 42 rows. In this stage totally I have 208 loops in my needle. So the total number of the loop is 208. Now I am going to separate this for front, then sleeve, back part and another sleeve and also the another front part. So for the front I am going to use 30, for the sleeve 45. For the back part, I am going to use 58 loops. So I am going to separate like this way. So if you are going to add all this, you get 208 loops. So now I am going to replace this front back loops into my circular needle and I am going to replace this sleeve into my straight needle. This is only for the view. You can use a straight needle also. So you can see. Now I am going to replace the first 30 loops like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I replace 30 loops. After that for the sleeve I have 45. So I am going to replace the 45 loops into this big size hook. Instead of this you are going to use normal thread. So now I am going to replace this 45. 1, 2. Now I replace 45 loops into this big size hook. After that for the back part I have 58. So I am going to replace 58 loops into my circular needle. After that I am going to move this 45 loops for the next straight hand needle. After that this 30 is move into my circular needle. After finishing this I will show you. Now you can see your project is look like this. So you can see this is the front. After that I move the sleeve into the next hook. After that I am going to replace this back part into the same circular needle. After that for the another sleeve I am going to move that loops into the straight needle. And this is the front. For this front I have in circular needle. Now I am going to work in this sleeve part. After finishing this sleeve part, move all these loop into the straight needle. After that I am going to work the sleeve part. After finishing these two sleeve part, I am going to work the bottom of the sweater. This is the procedure for this. Now you can see this is the 45 loops for the sleeve. Now I am going to work in this. So for this I am going to join next yarn. You can see. So now I am going to join the new one. So you can see this is the one. So now I am going to join this. So after joining this, now I simply make one knit stitch in every loop. So totally I have 45 knit stitch. You can see this is my first knit stitch. Move to the next one. Into this I am going to make my next knit stitch. You can see this is my next one. This is my second one. Move to the next. This is my third one. Move to the next. This is my fourth one. Continue the same for 45 loops. For the sleeve, row 1 is completed. Only for the identification, I place the marker. So now I am going to turn my project. This is my row 2. Into this, I am going to continue the same. In every loop, I simply make a knit stitch. Okay. This is my row 2. I simply slip the first loop in knitwise. Move to the second. Into this, I am going to make one knit stitch. In every loop, I simply make one knit stitch. Like this way, you are going to continue. So after finishing the row 2, move to your row 3, continue the same. You are going to continue the same for 6 rows. You can see I continue the same thing for 9 rows. Sorry, before I told 6 rows, but now I am going to continue the same thing for 9 rows. This is my 10th row. In this 10th row, I am going to make a decrease. I am going to decrease 1 loops from the starting and 1 loop from the ending. So you can see this is the first loop. I simply slip in the first loop. Into the second, I am going to make a decrease. 1, 2. I am going to knit together. So I am going to knit 2 together. So these 2 loops are decreased into the 1 loop. After that, you simply make 1 knit stitch in every loop until you reach last 3. You are going to continue the same. Now I simply make 1 knit stitch. This is my last 3 loop. Into these 2 I am going to make knit 2 together like this way. So this is my last one. Into this I am going to make 1 purl stitch. So now row 10 is completed. Move to the next row. This is my row 11. Into this I simply make 1 knit stitch in every loop. You are going to continue the same for 19 rows. Into your row 20 you are going to make a decrease from the first and also the last. So you are going to repeat and repeat until you reach the desired length of the sleeve. This is very easy to make. In every row I simply make 1 knit stitch. In your 10th row, in your 20 row, in your row 30, in your row 40, in your row 50, into that you simply make a decrease from the first and also the last. So I simply decrease 2 loops from the first and also the last. So in this stage I have 43 loops. Okay. Now I am going to continue the same pattern, repeat and repeat until I reach the desired length of the sleeve. After reaching that, I will show you what are the next steps for this project. You can see I continue the same pattern, repeat and repeat until I reach the desired length of the sleeve. Now I am going to make the rip part for this. So you can see for this I am going to make 1 knit stitch, 1 purl stitch. Repeat this. So this is my first loop. I simply slip in knitwise. Move to the move to the second one. Into this I am going to make 1 knit stitch. This is considered as 1 knit stitch. Move to the second. Into this I am going to make 1 purl. Move to the next, make 1 knit stitch, 1 purl stitch. Continue the same. 1 knit, 1 purl, 1 knit stitch and then 1 purl stitch. Continue the same. Repeat for this row. You can see I continue the same. 1 knit stitch, 1 purl stitch for this row. So this is my purl stitch. So I am going to end with 1 knit stitch. So I finish with one knit stitch. If you are finished with knit stitch means in the next row you are start with a purl stitch. If you are finished with purl stitch means in your next row you are start with a knit stitch. This is the rule for this repeat. So now I am going to turn my project. In previous row I finished with the knit stitch. So in this row I am going to start with a purl stitch. You can see like this way. Move to the next. Into this I am going to make one knit. Move to the next, one purl. Continue the same. One knit stitch, one purl stitch. Continue this for this row. After finishing this row, move to your next row. If you are finished with knit stitch means in your next row start with purl stitch. If you are finished with purl stitch means in your next row you are going to start with a knit stitch. You are going to continue the same pattern, repeat and repeat. You can see I continue the same pattern for 12 rows for this repeat. Now I am going to bind off. So this is very easy to make. You can see this is my first loop. I am going to bind off like this way. There are so many ways of bind off. What do you know? Do you have follow that? Okay. Now I am going to bind off all these loops. I simply bind off all loops. At last I have only one loop. In this stage you are going to cut the yarn. After cut the yarn you are simply pull this and make a knot like this way. So now one of the sleeve is ready. You can see now your project is look like this. Using normal sewing needle you are going to join these two parts, or if you love to crochet means you are going to crochet using slip stitch or single crochet for joining these two parts. After this continue the same what we did for the sleeves, continue the same for the another sleeve. You simply move all these loop in your straight needle, continue the same what we did for the first sleeve, continue the same for the another one. After finishing these two sleeves you simply joining these two sides. After that you can see, after that you are move to the front and back part. So after joining this you simply make one knit stitch in every loop round and round until you reach the desired length of the sweater. After reaching the desired length of the sweater, continue the same what we did for this rib part, continue the same method for the after reaching the desired length of the sweater, continue the same for the rib part. So after finishing all these I'll show you what are the next step for this project. This is very easy to make. You simply join these two sides. After that you are going to continue the back and front pattern. You simply make one knit stitch. You can see if you are going to join these two sides means these loops are very closer one to another. So you simply make one knit stitch round and round. Okay, after reaching the desired length you are going to make the rib part. After finishing this I'll show you what are the next steps for this project. You can see now I finished this project. I simply make one knit stitch round and round. After reaching the required length, I simply make 12 row of knit stitch. So now our project is ready. So this is the last one. So now I am going to use crochet hook for hide this. So you can see you are move to the next one and make like this way. So it helps for hide this yarn like this way. After that you are going to cut the yarn. So continue the same for the tail end also. You can see this is the tail end. Now I am going to hide this yarn using the near loops like this way. So after that you are going to cut the yarn. So after cut the yarn, now your project is ready. I hope all are enjoying in this video. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe my channel because I need your support. You can see this is the back part of the sweater. It's turned out so well. This is the right side of your sweater. So I hope all are enjoying in this video. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe my channel. Thank you friends. Have a nice day.